because it's very easy to do this, okay? You set up a rune buyer for people who already are 60 and have gotten all those runes, parallel to the other classes. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so if you're level 60 and you've already done all this lore and stuff like that, then you should be able to just buy your runes, because obviously you're just trying to play the game at that point for the most part. New players, I think it is cool for them to collect runes. I think that's cool, so I think he should leave it in. But there should be an option if you have a level 60 already to be able to use your gold to buy. Wrong video. No fucking way.
Thank you guys for coming and taking this interview. My name is
Some
Ebenhard.
of
Today
those
I'm
shared
being
ones in
joined by.
particular.
What is this interview? How many interviews are you doing?
By the devs from the Classic Dev team. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Sure. I'm Josh Greenfield. I'm a senior game producer on WoW Classic. Been at Blizzard for about 15 years. Been on Classic since the very beginning.
Hey there, I'm Tim Jones. I'm the assistant lead game designer for WoW Classic. I've also been at Blizzard for about 15 years, so having a lot of fun being here today.
Lovely to have you both. So I'm just going to dive into it because we only have a limited amount of time. But my first question is, Baseball's reception has been incredibly positive, and considering how different SOD is from Classic, how does the team decide what to add or change when it comes to Season of Discovery, considering things have to stay Classic?
You know, I think from the very beginning, and this changes phase from phase, but one of our main goals was to add to the world, make the world as the main character of Classic, and we wanted to enrich the leveling experience as much as possible. And one thing that we thought would be really interesting were the idea of level up raids and how people would integrate those into their leveling experience. And I think that was largely successful. People leveling up are still incorporating Black Fathom Deeps and Nomergon and Sunken Temple into their leveling experience, as well as they were interesting at.
It's so funny about that because the last boss of Sunken Temple Nomergon still doesn't give XP, which is actually kind of hilarious. It's been known forever. This isn't a big deal, but I mean, you're talking about leveling up, and one of the bosses literally doesn't give XP
at the time for being an end game activity. And I think I'm leveling a new paladin up on Wild Growth, and I'm enjoying just incorporating doing
it's just my cam, I don't know,
rune discoveries alongside my normal quest progression in the outdoor world. So I think we've wanted to make fun and cool content that really builds up what players can do in the outdoor world by themselves and with each other, and that continues.
I mean, it wasn't bad. I mean, discovering the runes and shit was pretty cool. Like, it was pretty cool the first time. It wasn't bad.
Anything, Josh?
I mean, yeah, pretty much. I think we definitely have kind of a sliding scale, like Tim alluded to, that has sort of changed over time of like what we feel is like appropriate or not. I think one of the things about Season of Discovery that we really like is that it's a great test bed, not just to see what works, but also to kind of see what doesn't in the kind of original WoW vanilla framework. And that's almost as important as the successes, is looking at what doesn't entirely succeed and being able to kind of like put a flag in the ground there and like, let's remember that for whatever we do.
Let's hope they remember that for BWL
next. And so that's been super valuable, and I think I think that's one of the best parts of working on this.
Okay, no, thank you very much. That doesn't make sense because I know SOD has had a lot of ups and a few downs here and there.
So
my next question is, with Demonfall Canyon, it's a completely new dungeon, and nobody would have expected that to be added to the game. People might have expected Karazhan Crypts or like other dungeons, and nobody here and there. So my next question is, with Demonfall Canyon, it's a completely new dungeon, and nobody would have expected that to be added to the game. People might have expected Karazhan Crypts or like other dungeons like Scarlet Crusade. So what made the team decide to go with Demonfall Canyon as a new dungeon or a new?
I think they're definitely going to add crypts and shit later. There's no way that shit's not going to be added.
Being added to Season of Discovery.
Go ahead, Tim.
Oh, you can go.
You sound like you're about to say something. Demonfall Canyon is an interesting one because like how that kind of the genesis of that is we had, one of our designers was working on one of the discoveries for priests, and he wanted to have it integrate with Demon Fall Canyon, have you go there for a reason. He's like, well, I'm going to create an instance version of this so I could put higher level creatures there without like jarring phasing or anything like that. And then kind of pretty quickly we're just like, why don't we just make a dungeon? Like, let's just do that. And it I think worked out really well. It just made sense at the time. I think a lot of things we do, like our team, one of the benefits of kind of being able to move quickly and pivot quickly is that we can kind of make a quick decision and be like, okay, let's act on this. We're excited about this. Let's just go ahead and do it. That's kind of one of those things that just sort of made sense in the moment, and we decided to go ahead and push forward with it. It was also
no one cares,
kind of see, like, let's sort of float this out there and see how people react. And I think it's been super successful. The dungeon's pretty popular. I've enjoyed it. A lot of my friends have enjoyed it. A lot of players that I play with enjoy it. So I think it's been pretty good. It's
pretty cool. Cool new dungeon.
It has been an amazing dungeon. It was really interesting to go in there and see it. Like, I didn't expect it, and it was really interesting considering it was scaled correct to level 60 as well. So
yeah, that was crazy interesting.
So then my next question is, why did you guys choose to add a new boss, for example, the 11th boss to Molten Core, as the play?
Listen, I haven't seen the 11th boss. I know people talk about it. It's some ball sack in the air. We're gonna keep watching this. I'm gonna get spoiled. It's okay. Because I know it's a ball sack in the air. I don't know the mechanics. I don't really know exactly what it looks like, but I know it's a ball
Player
sack.
base is leveling it, going to calling it the IKEA meatball. How did that go down, and how did you guys decide this boss was the right fit for Molten Core?
I mean, in the early discussions about what we would do to Molten Core, we wanted to.
Bro, he's geeking. Agrind is geeking. Look at this. Hold on.
I mean,
this boss was the right fit for Molten Core.
Dude, he's geeking about this. He's like, oh yeah, we're retarded.
I mean,
oh yeah,
in the early
retarded.
discussions about what we would do to Molten Core, we wanted.
Yeah, it was embarrassing.
We wanted to preserve people's original experience. There's a lot of people who have gathered up all these abilities who want to go into these places that they are now very familiar with. These are not new places or reimagined places in the same sense that, like, Black Fathom Deeps and Numbergun, where they have a much more established head canon than those dungeons that were sort of chosen because they weren't as popular while leveling up. And so we wanted to make an experience that was familiar, that had some mechanics that were new. That's why we brought some of the Season of Mastery mechanics. It might be too subtle, but there are new things that happen on each boss on every difficulty. We wanted to evoke sort of.
Bro, do they even talk about them copy pasting from Psalm? This is gonna be crazy.
The heat.
Like, there's new mechanics, but please, dude, please.
Of the intensity of Ragnaros. The Blackrock Eruption event is also part and parcel with that. That was to signify to players, like, Ragnaros is in his lair and he's pissed and he's tearing things up, and we wanted people inside the instance to feel that intensity, and people in the outdoor world to feel that too.
Okay.
As far as the Molten Core, I mean, part of it is kind of funny that you would fight the Molten Core itself. What is the Molten Core? Well, it's probably a ball of molten lava. Part of it is, art, where we are sort of establishing our legitimacy as a team, and part of that is building stronger relationships with the other teams at Blizzard, like getting official support from our art team, and we're starting to see that. A lot of the stuff that we've built in terms of new abilities, a lot of that is just sort of scrappy designer art, where we've had to throw things together and mash things from existing spell effects. But we got.
Is he talking about the mechanics on this fight? I haven't seen, like, is he talking about the mechanics on the ball, or or something? Like,
we got a little budget, and
is he talking about the abilities from other bosses? He's talking about the spell effects from the ball, right, or something?
Time from our artists to craft us a new boss with some new animations that we thought was really cool. It's a little simple, but it's heading in a new direction. It's a new relationship, and I think I hope people can see that it's the start of hopefully something bigger.
They had like 8 months. They even delayed Classic. They're a billions of dollar company. It's insane that like this is the start where we didn't have a lot of time to think about this. Like that's kind of insane.
That makes perfect sense, because I did wonder about like the Classic devs, the art team and all that stuff. So it does make sense that you guys now have that official support, so we'll get better and better models and things in the future. So,
but yeah, we also wanted to play up the idea of like the Hydraxian water lords. We wanted their story to see. We wanted players to be able to work beside them in tackling and sort of pushing Ragnaros back and the power of the Firelands back. And so yeah, just it's delicate because people's preconceived notions of what Molten Core is very strong, much stronger than previous dungeons. So we thought that this was a light touch, but we had fun with it.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So
dude, I don't know if I'm high or if I'm a genius. Look at his eyes when he's talking about this. It's like you're talking about something it's like you're embarrassed about. Like look at his eyes.
Previous dungeons. So we thought
like he's looking
that this
down,
was
like,
a light touch, but
like,
we had fun with it.
Like it's like you're like embarrassed to talk about it.
So then, Molten Core getting an extra 11th boss. Do you guys see new bosses being added to existing future raids like Blackwing Lair or AQ, or even new world bosses, especially with the instance technology?
Good question.
I think it will look at what makes sense at the time. Molten Core seemed like a pretty, like, we've done a couple of different iterations of original WoW at this point, and it seemed like a good opportunity. It's like let's spice it up a little bit. Let's add a little bit something new. It made sense there. I never say never. I think we're looking at every raid tier and every content phase kind of as a case by case basis. We're not necessarily looking to set up a rigid paradigm that we follow every single time. Like we could do something completely different. We could scrap the difficulties and do something else for Blackwing Lair or AQ40 or maybe not even AQ40, might be AQ20. I don't know. So there's a lot of different things we could do, and we're not really constraining ourselves to one paradigm at this point.
I will say for next,
so hold on.
Something else. We could do something completely different. We could scrap the difficulties and do something.
Yo, yeah, that means they plan on doing scrap the difficult. Maybe we'll scrap the difficulties. That means they definitely had that plan for like AQ and shit,
or
BWL and shit, dude.
Maybe not even AQ40, might be AQ20.
Oh, AQ20.
So there's a lot of different things we could do, and we're not really constraining ourselves to one paradigm at this point.
I will say for next tier though, like if you can look closely at what people are building up towards and what we did in this most recent phase with the world bosses, we wanted to make the world bosses more accessible to people. It's a piece of content that not a lot of people got to experience.
Yeah, I agree. That's cool.
In era
cool. World bosses were cool.
And so I think we've been successful in exposing people to the Kazakh and Azure Ghost fights. There is a larger than life encounter that ties into something that people are doing now and will build towards more next phase. Well, could we apply the line of thinking that we had for our world bosses to whatever encounter that is, to let more people experience that and be rewarded by that?
Make
maybe
a new instance?
I'll let you figure out what I'm talking about.
Is he just saying like we're gonna have like a new instance? Oh, what?
Nah, I have quite a few ideas there. Gonna be videos in the future on that stuff. So now that we are in phase 4 and going through the end game, in a blue post you guys mentioned that Blackwing Lair was going to come out within a few weeks. Is it just Blackwing Lair that's going to be accelerated, or is the whole of SOD going to be accelerated?
Yeah, I think there may be a little bit of a misunderstanding there. I'm not exactly sure.
Wait, what did he say?
Yeah,
Blackwing Lair is going to be blue post you guys mentioned that Blackwing layer was going to come out within a few weeks. Is it just Blackwing layer that's going to be accelerated, or is a whole of SOD going to be accelerated?
Accelerated.
Yeah, I think there may be a little bit of a misunderstanding there. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not sure what that blue post, where that came from. Like a few weeks thing, like we're not going to put out raid tiers every month. Like we're not going to do like a 4-week cadence. They're going to have some time to breathe. Now, will it be like the 2019 cadence? No, it won't be. Okay. It won't be that long. We're not going to do 4, 5, 6 month raid tiers, but we're definitely not going to do 1 month raid tiers either. Especially, we've put a lot of effort into sort of the difficulty levels and the new gear. We made 1,000 new items for this patch. Many of those were in Molten Core, like revamped items in Molten Core, new tier sets. We're gonna let you get a chance to get that stuff and have it and enjoy it for a minute before we kind of shuffle you into the next thing. And so, like, you know, we're gonna have a good amount of time in the raid tier. It's not gonna be like 3, 4, 5 months, but it's not gonna be 4 weeks either.
No, I think that's good. I think a 2-3 month MC is fine. As long as they don't over-nerf. I think for everyone to get the gear, actually make their bisses. It's funny because our bis for this tier, if they keep going on with the like resistance shit, like we're gonna have to go back to blue items when BWL comes out. Like we're legit gonna have to go back to blue items with shadow resist gear or something. Like it seems so hard to move forward from this because now you set everyone to get a fuck ton of fire resistance. And will it matter the next year, or it's just going to be completely different? And it's just like it would be so boring if it's like that.
It's actually good news. I was actually kind of worried about that. I was like, 4 weeks, damn, that's not enough time.
No, there's so much to do.
4 weeks honestly is not enough time.
Why would we rush you through it? Like it doesn't make much sense.
Oh yeah,
thank you for clarifying that. And SOD is a very popular game mode, even with ups and downs, like I said. But people have been curious about the future of the characters, and I know every interview, every time you guys talk to people, they ask what happens to their characters at the end. Do you guys know if you'll be able to tell people or expand upon what happens at the end now that we're in phase 4? Like, will it be error characters or things of that nature?
They're not gonna say. There's no way to say. Yo, they weren't even ready for MC, buddy. They don't. Dude, he brought a BWL company. Actors like, whoa, hold your horses. We haven't even gotten started on that. But don't worry, we'll just slap 3 debuffs, and we'll call it a day. And we'll take whatever Psalm had, we'll copy paste that, we'll slap some debuffs on that, it'll shadow resist debuffs, and we're good.
We're in a little bit of a tricky spot because the sheer scope of things we've added for Season of Discovery, and we'll probably continue to add, especially in terms of like itemization and stuff like that. We can't put you on an arrow realm, right? Because like that's a bridge way too far to let you take your 8-piece enhancement shaman set that doesn't exist in arrow over there, right? Like but we don't also we're growing attached to our characters too. I've got several characters, 2 in particular, that I just love playing, and I'm not in a hurry to shuffle them off to a retirement home. And so I think that the thing that we've kind of been telling folks is that, like, if you want to make an Atiesh, you should feel secure that you're going to get to make that Atiesh and enjoy it for a minute before this whole thing ends. We while we're still trying to figure out exactly where you will end up at the end, we don't have any firm plans to just say, okay, 3 months after Naxxramas comes out, the server's done and we're making you move and we're shutting it down. I don't think it's really going to be that way. We're gonna let it run. We're gonna let this exist for a while, and I think there's a contingent of folks I think that will want to keep playing this in some form or another. No matter what we do after it.
It might be like classic era. It might be just a server forever.
We really want that. So it's a little bit of a wishy-washy answer, but at the same point, like, we want to let you have time to enjoy your characters and where they end up, and we also want to make sure that wherever they do end up eventually is a place that is cool and it's a good ecosystem for what Season of Discovery was.
True.
Thank you very much, because I know a lot of people have been super curious because they don't want to put all this effort into their character and then lose or anything. So it's good to know that we are getting something, maybe not error, but something similar at the least.
Yeah. I can't see.
Yeah, I'd like to point out Warcraft dev. Josh Greenwood. Is this Josh Greenwood? Just drank from a water bottle, not a tap water. Amen.
A world where we'll just delete the characters. That's just not going to happen.
But thank you for answering that. So then my next question is going back to Molten Core. Heat levels are a new interesting system for adding essentially hardcore / heroic mode into the classic ecosystem.
Yeah.
What was the design philosophy in regards to adding this to the game, especially since for most people heroic or hard mode isn't a classic feature?
You know, we have such a variety of players in Season of Discovery.
Absolutely.
We have a lot of people with different goals and different ideas of what the game should be and how true to the source material or how different from the source material they want things. And so Molten Core was an attempt at trying to create a lot of different experiences for very different people. You know, and we're still looking at data to make sure that our goals, our design goals for those intentions are met. And first off, like Heat 1, we want Heat 1 to be incredibly approachable. We don't intend, like if you can get a group together, if you have a decent amount of pre-bis gear and have prepared moderately, then we don't want you overwhelmed by the mechanics of the fights. We don't want you to wipe that much. We don't want fights to go super long. We don't really want people to struggle. We want it to be a fun way for you to get together and feel rewarded for having assembled a group in the first place and get some cool items. You know, you might not get as many items as people on the harder difficulties, but you get the full experience. And if you want to push yourself to the harder difficulties, then there is that opportunity. And we, you know, it's an experiment. We're seeing if fire resistance or resistance in general, you know, plays well as sort of a soft cap system or kind of a hard cap system where it is right now.
Yeah, it's definitely a hard cap system
in terms of player progression. And we've
done
done what we can with itemization to offer lots of fire resistance on tier 1. We also don't want to disincentivize people from playing with all the new items that they get. I know it's a bit more restrictive once you get into Heat 3, but the tools are there itemization wise and from enchants, from different items and reputations, and being able to get the patterns from the Thorium Brotherhood and craft those super heavy fire resistance pieces and still integrate that with your 6-piece tier 1. It might not be the exact best in slot set of gear that you.
So I think it's interesting that you can make your own bits now. I think that is interesting. I think it's kind of cool, but I think it's insane that the heat levels. It's impossible until you get the heat level, and then the fucking mechanic is not even there anymore. Like, it's not fucking heroic or mythic if it's just fucking hard capped by gear, and when you get the gear, like, nothing's different. Like the bosses still don't do damage. There's no new mechanic. There's nothing different except you just don't die instantly. Like, you don't even take fire damage anymore. The mechanic is absolutely gone. Like, that's insane. That's not a mythic. Like,
you had in mind, but it still allows for some of the really cool pieces.
So let's
for you to
see
play
if they
with
actually
on those
talk
higher
about
difficulties. Once you build out your set,
and it's insane. They didn't even mention that they copy pasted the mechanics from Psalm. Like, they didn't even put any effort into this. They just put fire resist cap so they can't do it first global, or, you know, hopefully they can't do it first global unless they knew or something. And it's just capped, and then when you get there, it doesn't exist. Like, the shit you were dying to doesn't exist anymore, and you have the same mechanics, and it's like does like 10% more damage, which is still no damage. Like, insane.
To kind of expand on that too a little bit, like, one of the things we do quite a bit on the classic team is we try and think of we try and evoke the feeling that you had, you know, without necessarily we can't recreate the place where we were at our lives or every piece of the experience that we experienced in 2005 or whatever. But what we can do is we can try and hone in on, like, what's the feeling and, like, what's the vibe of kind of like how you approach this and see in what ways can we emulate that. And a lot of the fire resistance stuff, it's like that was just kind of a part of what you did in 2005. It was like a preparation aspect that you got together with your guild, you pooled resources, you invested in trying to develop your character, and then
fire
you grew out
is
of that
cool
stuff.
to an
like
extent.
You made a bunch of dark iron gear
I think it makes
to survive
sense.
Ragnaros or whatever, and then eventually you're like, yeah, you know what, we got enough gear, we have enough DPS, we can just kind of back that up a little bit. And that's one of the things that we tried to build on with like the tier sets. Like, you know, I did Molten Core last night. I got 3 pieces of my tier. I got really lucky with the drops, and I already have. But just with that and an Arcana.
Why is this dude geeking? Look at this. Look at this. Look at him start geeking, dude. Oh, we did raid together. Haha, it was so fun.
You build on with like the tier sets. Like, you know, I did Molten Core last night. I got 3 pieces of my tier. I got really lucky with the drops, and I already have. But just with that and an Arcanum and like one other item, I'm already at enough passive fire resistance to be good to go in Heat 2. And that's what we wanted. Like the negative aspect of fire resistance was something that was like, I can't wear my best stuff. It's like, well, let's just put fire resistance on your best stuff. And I think it's working out pretty well. I think it's gonna.
No, I think that's good. I think it's cool to use fire resistance. I think it's stupid that it's you either have that or you're dead, which they nerfed, and it's only going to do 3 times the damage it should. I don't know how much damage that is. I don't know if that's just a guaranteed one shot still, or what, you know, maybe you could live with a fire pot or something. But the fact that like if you get the fire resist, then it's like nothing. I think that's so fucking lame. That's not like a mythic, bro.
End up working out well. Now, will we do resistances? You know, is Blackwing Lair going to be the shadow raid? I don't know. Maybe not. Probably not. Like, that's not necessarily something we want to do every time and have you have just like oodles of useless resist gear in your bags forever. But it seemed like it made sense for Molten Core that was just sort of like a iconic part.
It made sense, but it shouldn't have been the entire, like, when you do Heat 3, there should be like more mechanics, new mechanics, actual boss doing damage, like actually make it hard once you reach that cap, and then that would be okay. Like, it would be pretty cool. Like, you reach a cap, it's gate kept by gear, that's okay, that's fine, but it should be harder too. Like, the once the mechanic disappears, when you're on the hardest difficulty, there should be something different to the fights. You know, like motherfucking ass. Like, there should be something different. I think the fire resist is fine as long as, you know, it's obviously a ton of fire resist, which is kind of fried. Like, but the fights should just be harder. Like, it should be harder. I know it is, but like 5-10%, but it doesn't do anything. Like, it's not actually a thing, right? So it's like
of sort of the over preparation that players did to tackle that in earlier iterations of original WoW.
And the way that we structured rewards,
it was harder. People would cry. That's why it's Heat 3. You shouldn't be able to do it because it's harder. It should be a mythic quality, right? Like, it should be hard. Yeah, like, casual gamers shouldn't be able to clear Heat 3, but casual gamers will be clearing Heat 3 in like 4 weeks when their casual guild has all this casual gear, right? Because like, it's just time gated. There's nothing to it. It's just time. It's just time and getting the gear.
I think the intent was for people to start at lower difficulties. Obviously, we provided the flexibility of being able to do any boss on any heat at any time, except if you want to do the Molten Core boss itself.
What?
But ability of being able to do any boss on any heat at any time, except if
like
you want to do
raids.
the Molten Core boss itself. But you know, people who try to do Heat 3 right off the bat, it's going to be hard.
It's impossible. Unless you fucking knew about it and pre-prepped, or your whole guild pre-prepped insane amounts of gold and time. It was impossible. It is impossible.
Skipping steps. So because you've skipped steps, you know,
it's
itemization
impossible.
is going to be really awkward because you're not putting in the effort to get the pieces of the Thorium Brotherhood gear or the tier 1 that, you know, people are going to get naturally from going from lower heat levels to higher heat levels. So there's going to be some friction. We're okay with that. Are there ways that we can
more than
make
1K per player? It's like
lower heats easier if
right?
too many people are running into brick walls? Absolutely. Are there maybe some improvements to the sort of the binary nature of the damage multipliers when you take fire damage on higher heats? Yeah, we can look at that too.
Okay.
but we're learning, and we're excited to look at the data coming.
See, even if they fix it, it's still insanely lame that it's not actually harder. It's just the fire mechanic making it either insanely hard or impossible. Like, it's good that they're nerfing it. Like, they're making the heat, not one shot you guaranteed. Hopefully, I don't know. We'll see. But it's just lame that you'll go into Heat 3 and be like, oh my god, we're finally geared for Heat 3. And then you instantly clear it because the mechanic there is gone. The mechanic that stopped you from killing it is literally absolutely gone. And it's just like Heat 2 or Heat 1. Like, that's so crazy. And then I can't believe they don't even talk about copy pasting SOM. Like, what the fuck is that? Stress the point that fire res is a huge barrier to entry in a seasonal game that promotes having alts. That insanely alt unfriendly. That is insanely true. It is insanely alt unfriendly. I mean, SOD has been very alt unfriendly for a while. I don't really care about that part, but yes, you're absolutely right. It is insanely alt unfriendly.
Coming in this week from the first week of people doing MC.
But I personally, I don't care about that because I'm gonna have one character, and I feel like having that 1 giga character is vibrant. But that is an absolute problem for altaholics.
Makes perfect sense, because for me in particular, we went in with heat level 3. We were like, all right, let's go down, and then we went down, and then we full cleared on heat level 1 because we brought a couple of new people. Not everybody was prepared as they could have been. So it is nice that the heat levels have that flexibility. As you get geared, you can keep progressing further and further.
As you get geared, you get to do another heat level that has literally nothing extra except like that's it. Like, it's just same thing. You just now where fires just it's so stupid.
So then continuing on with the Blackrock Mount in particular, the Blackrock Eruption event was a somewhat controversial event, even though I personally enjoyed it. But do you think that adding PvP portion of the event to a hotspot of PvE activity is something you guys will consider continuing in the future?
I think I actually kind of I like the BRM event. I just wish they didn't even think about the res. The res shit is crazy. Like, I think people PvP and BRM no matter what. I don't know. It's AIDS, but I'm a fan of AIDS. And it's really unfun when you're not the faction that's like leading, but it's also kind of boring when you're the faction that's leading. It's kind of cool. I don't mind the event, to be honest. I really wish that the res timers were better. The res timers are just that kills it. The res timers kill it.
Future?
Short answer, probably not. I mean, like contrary to maybe popular belief, the PvP realms, the major ones, Living Flame, Lone Wolf, Crusader Strike,
got raided in 6 hours.
Still perfectly balanced on a login, like average players on each faction logged in time. And we kind of knew that Blackrock Mountain was going to be a battleground anyway, and we felt like never in WoW's history realms.
What?
Contrary to maybe popular belief, the PvP realms, the major ones, Living Flame, Lone Wolf, Crusader Strike, they're still perfectly balanced on a login, like average players on each faction logged in time. And we kind of knew that Blackrock Mountain was going to be a battleground anyway, and we felt like never in WoW's history have the factions had the tools, like in terms of like numerical balance, to be able to have good fights there. But what ends up happening, I think, is balance to be able to...
So I don't think they fucked up balance, because I think it was just naturally going to happen like this. I don't think they could control this. I actually think this is out of their control, because it was balanced. They did have the tool to balance it. But then Alliance has Asmongold and Esfand, and they quit after 1 month of every vanilla launch. So I don't think it's their fault that we had basically an inflation on Alliance of people who will quit in a month. I think they did have that tool, and they did keep it balanced. But when those Alliance players quit, because they're Graysons, they're phase 1 quitters, right? Like, a ton of them are gonna quit. Then you just get fucked, because the Horde isn't like a popularity contest. The Horde players play the game actually for the most part. Like they have Soda Bomb, but Soda Bomb I don't think brings as much as Asmongold and SFAN to Alliance. And so I don't think the Horde, especially in SOD, didn't really play. So the Horde never had that like fake in what's the word they never had that fake inflation, and the Alliance did and do always have the fake inflation when those two are playing, and so we lost the fake inflation from them, and that just fucked the server. But I don't think there's anything they could have done, to be honest. Like, they just quit. The players just quit, which made the faction unbalanced. It's not okay. Yeah, the inflation. Yeah, so like 30% of the Alliance who just followed Asmon and SFAN, and then saw they weren't playing anymore and quit. That fucked us, and that always fucks the Alliance, because that's how it is. And so I don't think it's their fault. I unless they fucked it, because I know Grayson said like the first day of SOD Phase 4, he was like, dude, I can't make an Alliance character. When it was already like 70-30 or felt like 70-30, you know what I mean? If they fucked that, now that's their problem. I don't have proof that was actually fucked though. If they fucked that, then that was definitely a huge mistake. Well, you can make Horde. Alliance is locked. Wait, what? Wait, Alliance is locked? Nah, no way. That's crazy. I mean, is it balanced now? Like, I don't think so, right? Is it balanced right now? Because in the beginning, it definitely didn't feel it.
To have good fights there, but you know what ends up happening, I think, is one faction decides that they want something different.
Realize, but that's all natural. Rerolls and shit, it's all natural. I really think Asmon and SFAN, the followees of Asmon and SFAN just always quit, and it fucks it. I mean, it fucked it on Farolina. Farolina at first was Alliance and Horde server. SFAN Asmon quit. Horde started dominating because you know the inflationers quit as well. And then Horde started dominating, then they ran off to Benediction, right? That's literally how Benediction happened.
Out of that experience, then another one, and the one that's maybe focused on, well, I just really want to get to the dungeon and do the dungeon. They might have a worse time than the guy who says, I want to stop you from getting to the dungeon. And so that's something I think want to consider. We're looking at the BlackRock event. We might make adjustments to it in terms of the PvP portion of it. I think the PvE portion of it has been incredibly successful. I think that's been pretty much exactly where we wanted it to, in terms of like your time investment in it each day. We learned a lot of great lessons from previous phases when we made that event. And I think overall it's something we want to carry forward, but the PvP sections, we need to rethink kind of like what is good world PvP. And you know, like we say this, we don't say this to give like a cop-out answer, but it's like it is all kind of an experiment. We kind of wanted to see what happened. And you know, this is another thing, we've seen what happens, and we'll make adjustments in the future.
Yeah, I will say
I don't think they could ever make world PvP good. Like world PvP just has to happen naturally. Like I don't think a world PvP event is ever gonna actually be good. Like I don't know. I've never been a big fan of world PvP.
Some of the Eric
casually running through BRM and kill someone, like that's fun and shit. Like maybe Songflower, world PvP, like world PvP is like
communities are doing with their
world PvP. I swear, it's just having people in the world. Like an event for it is fucking fried. I've never had fun in like a fucking huge event. Like it's never been fun. And maybe some other people have fun in huge events, but huge events have never been fun. Yeah, Instance World Boss is good because the Alpha Guilds would just take every World Boss. Like it would be stupid. And the problem is servers can't even handle world PvP because it just lags out. Like when there's too many people, you can't actually play the game anymore. Yeah, but I think a lot of people wouldn't have experienced world bosses if it was like that. And I think that their plan for world bosses was people to experience them. And world bosses aren't special, but never being able to kill it is pretty lame. Like you know what I mean? If it's camped by like a bigger guild or a better guild, like I agree that they should have instanced it. Like because there's people who would never experience world bosses. It's not like they're crazy, but like still never experiencing it is kind of like a downer in itself.
With their PvP events that they're doing, like the battle between like in off the east coast of Barrens, like that stuff's incredibly exciting and fun to see. So if there's anything that we can do to sort of give players the tools to have those outdoor spontaneous PvP events, definitely looking into that.
That makes perfect sense because the PV.
Bro, am I high? I swear, world PvP is not something to be focused on. Like that should be like a byproduct of the world being alive. Layers as well. No layers, the world being alive. That should be a byproduct of the game being good, right? People wanting to play the game, people wanting to be on. That the byproduct of that is world PvP. Because then there's people everywhere, right? Like an event of world PvP forcing people to do some fucking dog shit event, or they're not forcing it, but it's in a spot where a lot of people don't want to PvP. That's pretty AIDS, like as a PvP or whatever. But like it's pretty AIDS for people who don't want to PvP. And I guess why make it on a PvP server then? But it's same thing on PvE servers anyway. Yeah, I think that you shouldn't even like. I mean, I guess that was the whole focus of SOD a lot of times, like some world PvP event every fucking phase. But every fucking world PvP event has been trash, and so the IMO world PvP should just be a just natural thing. Like maybe there's some fucking things to pick in Ashenvale, and the world is just full, so world PvP happens naturally because people are there to pick this herb or whatever the fuck, or you know whatever the fuck.
The PvE portion of the event was everyone's like that. I've heard nothing negative about it, but yeah, so it is good to know that you guys like the data shows like PvE servers are balanced and PvP servers are just PvP servers at the end of the day. Sadly.
Yeah, that makes sense. PvP servers are just PvP servers at the end of the day. Sadly, lol.
So going on, this one's a kind of interesting question, but incursions are probably the most controversial thing out of the season at Discovery and contributed to a lot of the negativity around Phase 3. The team removed them in Phase 4, but what did you learn from the experience?
Wait, sorry, I was spaced out. I was laughing at my own joke.
Kind of interesting question, but incursions are probably the most controversial thing out of the season at Discovery and contributed to a lot of the negativity around Phase 3. The team removed them in Phase 4, but what did you learn from the experience that might benefit Phase 4 onwards or like next season or whatever you guys continue doing?
I don't want to hog the mic here too much, Tim, but you know, I think going into it, what the idea we had for incursions is we wanted to look at like the Cenarian expedition or Cenarian circle sort of like missions that we had and like make that a little bit more approachable and user friendly, because like those were kind of like a proto form of like daily quests, right? Like they were kind of repeatable quests, but they were very cumbersome because you couldn't like share them, and there was this like really weird long lead time intro where you had to go and do this like kind of task and then bring it back, and it was a whole thing, but it felt very old school. We wanted to try and emulate that, but unfortunately making it so repeatable and honestly way too lucrative, which was just a miss on our part, that unfortunately kind of hurt it quite a bit.
That actually destroyed the SOD economy. That shit was crazy.
The good lesson is to really make sure you're looking at these things holistically. Like I think there was probably, I could get into a whole thing just on this, but there's a couple really good lessons we learned there about making sure that whenever we're looking at these types of events, we're looking at sort of not just like how does it feel to do the event itself, or how does it feel like what do the rewards feel like, but looking at it all together. And I think we could have done a better job with that. And I think the Eruptions event, it was informed a lot by that.
Well, maybe.
And
Agron's mustache is like mine. It like goes like it's like more thick on one side, and then like less thick on others. You see that? I've been just staring at that. I don't know why. It's like less thick on his like left side, like way more thick on his right side. I've been just staring.
That lands a lot closer to where we would have wanted.
I have an uneven mustache too,
landed, and you know, we were able to apply the lessons.
I'm a little self-conscious about it, so that's why I noticed.
You know, make meaningful adjustments to the next thing we did, and that's the goal. And again, like it goes back to what I was saying, that it's almost as much about seeing what doesn't work as seeing what does work in this kind of seasonal experimental environment.
I think that's fine. That's a fun answer.
Okay, that makes perfect sense because incursions, controversial, BRE so much better. So it is good that those lessons did start making the further events and stuff already better.
Yep.
So my next question is, like, the Tarnished Undermine Real is a really good addition to the game. Makes people go into dungeons and grind, just keeps the world active and players incentivized.
Reals are
do you
good.
plan on expanding on this currency in the future? For example, in Phase 5 and people in Blackwing Lair or onwards, like if you guys add new dungeons or things like that, will there be a new currency or will we continue with the Tarnished Undermine Real?
That's a really good question. Because no cap, there could be some kinky things that they release, like for BWL, that have like insane shadows. Because they probably want to make us go back into dungeons, I'm assuming, to play the game more. You know what I mean? And they might release like release some Shadow Plus gear because we're gonna have an awesome BWL with you need a fucking 200 Shadow Resist to even step into this fucking phase, poggers, and that is nothing new. Anyway, but yeah, let's see.
Hogging the mic.
You're good,
this is
man.
another thing that I worked on. So but like the currency. There's a reason we cap them at 100, so you can't bank them forever. And I think it's
okay.
I don't want to say for sure, but I think it's if we wanted to just continue to use that currency for future things, it could work. We could add more. We don't really want to we don't have a currency UI in Classic at this moment, so we don't want to bog your bags down with all these different things, and so that's just something we got to think about. But I think it was built to scale a little bit to that if we wanted to add more things to it, we could, and we'd feel okay about it. So I no specific plans.
Who's excited to run dungeons for BWL, baby? what are they called? The Round the Worlds are back, baby. Around the Worlds are back.
It's in the back of our minds. It's something we can expand upon.
I also think in future phases, like getting your tier 0 set is going to be valuable. Like they're good pieces of gear, and people will continue to be incentivized to run dungeons. And I don't foresee us doing a thing where it's like, well, we're gonna once tier 2 is out, we're gonna put tier 1 gear on the Undermine Real. That's not gonna happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
We want Molten Core and Onyxia to be the avenue that people go to get that gear. So I think dungeons.
They really should have put fire resist on the 0.5 gear. Like on the upgraded gear, it for sure should have had fire resist. Like why does T1 have fire resist, but they didn't put, like, for some people, some of their 0.5 gear that they wasted gold on was completely useless. Luckily for me, it's pretty useful. Like it's decent for me. But they should have just put like fire resist or something. Like yeah, like it would have been way like cooler. Like, oh shit, I luckily I grind my 0.5 because this thing has plus fire resist on it. It would have actually been meaningful. But yeah.
Well, we'll continue to be good content even in future phases.
Thank you very much. Makes perfect sense. Well, that doesn't really matter to me. Just want to move on to the next question because we don't have much time left. So I know you guys probably can't share much at all, but would you be able to share any teasers of what's to come? For example, future new dungeons or raids or what comes after Season of Discovery? Again, I know you're probably tight-lipped, you can't share much, but people would love to know even a tiny teaser about what is potentially coming.
There is no way Karazhan Crypts is not coming. What else? Dude, they could do such cool shit, bro. They could do such cool shit with SOD. They're so fried. There could be so many cool raids, dude. We could have like a Zul'Farrak raid. You know that dungeon at the bottom of Daenerys that's like was supposed to be a dungeon? It was supposed to be like a raid at the bottom of Daenerys. I think it's or whatever. It has like big giants on it. It's like a Maradon raid looking ass thing. They can make a raid there. They could do Karazhan Crypts. They could probably do some BRD thing, dude. Some like different BR. I guess BRD is Molten Core, but they could do a lot of. They could, yeah. It's like an old. Yeah, they could do a lot of shit. Oh, ending of Strath UD has a raid portal, yo. Like, bro, they could do a lot of cool shit. Yeah, they are gonna just copy paste some shit for sure.
Well, we've already given you a little tease.
He did.
You go watch the VOD, rewatch it, get your noodle cooking a little bit. But I don't know, Tim. What can we say here?
I mean, I think if there's anything to take from this last phase is that we want to do as much as we can, and obviously, like we're getting more support from our art teams. Hopefully, that manifests itself in cool and exciting ways for players to be excited about.
Poros was taking a nap.
You know, Demon Fall Canyon was a really fun experience. One thing Josh didn't mention was how fast we put it together. It was a really great exercise in seeing like how quick our team can respond to an idea from a content designer. And
we had like 4 months to think of it. We came up with a new instance that was literally a copy paste of this place, just made him level 60 and elite. That's insane.